everyone. So today I wanted to talk about another canvas that I have developed based on my experience and how often I ended up doing these exercises so as to create something very reusable. So I don't have to reinvent everything from scratch, and I can also share it with other startup founders, other product managers, other members of my team. And this one is an experiment canvas. So let's deep dive into it. Let me share my screen. So again, as usual, I'll rely on a post that I have already made on my blog, uh, ddiinnxx.com, things.com. So the innovation canvas that I'm referring to is experiment canvas. So before we go and start looking at what the canvas is composed of, um, a quick recap of why canvas. I am a big fan of the crispness a canvas forces on your thinking, the brevity it forces, because there isn't much of space and you have to write very meaningful, convey uh, very clearly what you intend to say. And it becomes a very good method of storing, recording the thoughts at that time, and also becomes a very good artifact that you can share between the team and work with everyone, right? So what's an experiment? So every idea starts as a hypothesis, and once you have stated that hypothesis, the next natural step is to devise an experiment to validate or invalidate that hypothesis. And this is not something very unique to product management. This is, I think, a very good replication of the scientific process, where you have an hypothesis, then you devise an experiment to validate that hypothesis. And once an experiment validates that hypothesis, you try different experiments to come at it from various angles. And when that hypothesis stands the test, you formulate a theory around it, and other folks also replicate. And once there's a theory, something else is built on top of it. And when that hypothesis and that theory gets validated, it reinforces the validity of your theory. So if you take that scientific process and you apply that to product management, we have a hypothesis, which could be a belief, a thought, an observation, something that someone realized after looking at some research. And it's very important to then go and validate it. And that's where experiment comes into picture. So when you're running an experiment, it's very important to think very clearly about what is it you intend to test, how do you intend to test it, how would you know that the experiment has failed or passed. And that's where this canvas can help you. So if you look at it, it has six sections. The first one is in order to. So this is where you state the hypothesis that you want to run the experiment again. So this is where you hypothesize something which will bring value to your customers, right? So for example, in order to provide children with a safe messaging environment, right? That's the hypothesis, that children are doing messaging, and a safe environment to do messaging online is very important for them, right? Then the next section is we will build. So this is where you state what is it you want to build in form of the experiment, right? So here you could ideally be building something which is a POC, as lo-fi as possible. When I mean lo-fi, what I mean is that it should require least amount of work into building something using technology, right? If a clickable PDF works, don't go write a code to create a skeleton app, or maybe not even use one of those of low code environment which helps you click few buttons and create something. If a PDF, if a set of printed papers um, are sufficient, do that. Make as lo-fi a prototype as possible. And the reason I recommend this is that it keeps the cost low. Because this is an experiment, and you will keep on improving upon it. Most of what you will build will be discarded, and that means the cost of producing another version should be very low, and you don't feel very bad about discarding something. Many times if you have created something, especially if you have written program, you have written it in a code, it lingers. Many people have an emotional develop an emotional attachment with what they have, and a code never goes away. If people of my generation know Y2K, right? So a piece of code, however temporary you think, once it's used for something, it doesn't go away. So keep it as lo-fi as possible. That will, and you state the key capability of that lo-fi prototype, right? That will do something that will help you validate your experiment. And then you call out the success criteria or the failure criteria, right? It will be successful if, or this experiment fails if. And my previous video was around the importance of having success metric and failure metrics, right? And you can see that thought process kind of emerge here also, right? It's very important to call out under what conditions the experiment was successful and under what conditions did it fail, while keeping in mind, so this is where you kind of list down all the assumptions and risks, so that other folks who are going to participate in this experiment, creating lo-fi prototypes, actually going and talking to users and executing on that experiment, they have these assumptions and risk clearly in their mind. What I've done is I have provided a PDF version of this canvas. I've also provided a Google Sheet version of this. So you can click on the Google Sheet, and if you are logged into Google, you will be able to make a copy of it. And as always, you can download it. So I hope this reduces overhead of creating this canvas, and it encourages you to try out this canvas. Let me know how you tried it and how it went, and if you're okay with it, you can share a version with me and I can share it here so others can see how different people have tried this experiment canvas in different scenarios and can probably learn from various usages. I if I put my example, it will very very closely replicate the thought process of the blog itself. So that's why I'm waiting for others to put. So they are looking at it in a very different way, and it will kind of bring very interesting perspective. So if you have an example, feel free to share with me. Do experiment as much as possible. Keep it lo-fi. Keep the aim of the experiment very clear. Be very clear about how you will call that experiment a success or a failure. Happy experimenting, and looking forward to share another blog with you soon. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.